fit, you must acquit. Look out!
Hey everybody, welcome to Too Much CGI. I'm Bill, and guess what? I'm here with Scott in person.
Live in person. How are you?
Holy shit.
We haven't done this since the first test pilot for this show.
You know what? I was thinking about that earlier. We did do this once before.
It didn't work out too well.
What did we do wrong?
I sat over there in that corner, and you sat over here, and I don't know. Could have been the microphones. I don't know.
Well, we have better gear, so.
We do.
And we tested.
Better timing.
Yeah, we could see each other.
Yeah.
Much easier than before. If you're giving me hand signals now, I'll actually see them.
That may or may not be a good thing.
Well, today, everybody, we have a multi-topic show because we were talking. We're like, we have so much shit to talk about. And I'm like, this list is getting pretty long. Why don't we take turns running through a bunch of these topics that we'd love to talk about with y'all? Scott said, that's a great idea. So we're going to do that for you today. But I got to tell you, Scott, the news you just told me.
I'm just saying.
O.J. Simpson dead. How old? 77? 76.
Passed away on Wednesday, yesterday, as we're recording this, yesterday. And, yeah, cancer got him.
It's always amazing to me that somehow this guy, we were talking about it the other day on one of our shows. We were talking about how some celebrities get away with things and some don't. He's on well, now he's dead, but he was just on podcasts like crazy. People love to have him on. If OJ actually called and said, hey, I'd like to be on Too Much CGI, what would you say? I'd say, I don't think so. Would you have him?
I don't know. That's like selling your soul to the devil. You know what I mean? Like, would it get us more listens? Absolutely. Is it dirty as all hell to do? Absolutely. I mean, there's definitely crossroads there.
Now that you put it that way, it's not beneath me.
I've sold my soul for worse.
I'll do anything for listeners. OJ.
More clicks, you say, huh?
Yeah. Oh, it's just unbelievable because I still listen to Howard Stern. Howard Stern can't stand OJ. You know, from the days of yesteryear, he hated him then. He still hates him. And he always says, he goes, Stern says this, for some reason, OJ is still following me on Twitter and it drives me nuts. But Stern would play these clips, and it was clips from other podcasts. OJ was active. He was on a lot of shows, and nobody acts like he's murdered anybody.
Well, in a court of law, he was found to have not.
Yeah, I know.
I'd like to say it was technicality. I feel like there was a lot of, I don't know, damn good lawyers. Money can buy lawyers.
Damn good lawyers. Yeah, and a couple fumbles from the defense.
Yeah.
Or actually the offense, the prosecutors, not the defense.
Well, also the police. Looking at you, Mark Furman.
I went back and actually watched some of that case again, just to kind of
trial of the century.
Yeah, and the reason I found it again on my newsfeed is a random interview with Kato Kalin, and I was like, "What is he now telling new stuff?" And he was talking about it all, and I've never heard an interview with him, and he's kind of like, "Yeah, I think OJ did it too." Like,
absolutely,
no question.
Absolutely. Did you watch it back in the day when it was on?
Oh yeah, I was at Penn State.
Tied up in it, yeah.
And I remember everybody was watching it. Nobody went to class that day.
I mean, I was in high school, but like the trial, you're talking about the final day.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. But like even throughout the trial, when they would just bring in this defendant and this character witness and this person, like I was kind of wrapped up in it. Like I remember this is kind of what made the E channel for me.
Okay, yeah, I'm mixing it up. Right, because there was the E channel had the van. I do remember watching that. The memory that I'm really remembering at Penn State is the verdict.
Yeah, the final day of the verdict, right.
Everybody seemed to be home that day. Nobody went to class. And when the verdict came through, the entire campus of Penn State, it sounded like a football game. Everybody started cheering.
Yeah, that blows my mind.
I don't know why either, but I was cheering too. Just because it was such a crazy thing to have happened, we applauded. And then we all shamed ourselves later and said, be a good idiot.
Yeah.
But for a hot minute there, I guess I was a fan of OJ.
It was probably more of a fact that you were like a part of the social national conscious at the time.
Man, that's going to be a hard one to get used to. Nuremberg, gone. No more Naked Gun sequels, I guess.
That's right. I don't think he was being invited back for the new Naked Gun with Liam Neeson anyway.
There is a new Naked Gun with...
Yeah, we talked about that like this time last year.
Yeah, I mean, it's really being done?
Yeah, I last I heard, it was still a thing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure everybody from the original Naked Gun is dead. think Priscilla Presley might still be alive.
Ever seen a grown man naked, Billy?
That's Airplane.
Oh shit, you're right. They're so like lockstep though.
Yeah. You like gladiator movies, Billy?
You ever been to a Turkish bathhouse, Billy?
Oh, God. All right. Well, moving on from that news, which I don't know. I guess it's good news. I don't know. In a way, it's good news.
I feel karma won out. A little late to the party, but always rears its head.
Last time I was in LA, I actually went to the Brentwood house, and it was knocked down. I didn't know that. It was knocked down, and I guess the new owners have such a wall up, you can't even see anything anymore.
I heard that, and this is basically from YouTube videos, a lot of the famous, notoriously famous houses in LA, Sharon Tate murders, that was torn down, and they just built another house right up on top of it. The home where Kurt Cobain did the deed, I hear they tore that down, rebuilt that.
Did they do that because they think it'll be easier to sell?
I don't know the reason.
Was it a murder in the house? But there was a murder at that location.
Sure.
Did they see poltergeist? Like they can still get fucked with by ghosts.
No, poltergeist was when they built on top of the Native American cemetery.
Anyway, well, why don't we move on to mailbag here?
Mail, motherfucker.
Last week we talked about Tim Curry.
Yeah.
And we were talking about how he actually had an album. Remember?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Only got 4 songs in, though, or something, right?
Well, Tim, I don't know. But let me read this to you.
Okay.
So Tim Yoke, brother Tim, he writes to us. He says, "You didn't know about I Do the Rock?" You know, that was the name of the song. I Do the Rock. Tim Curry was a great musician. This entire album was hugely popular. This song is a classic, and he gave me a link to watch the video. And I went down a whole rabbit hole today. I was off today. I was watching all these. He did a bunch of songs.
Really?
And you can hear where you just hear Frankenfurter throughout.
Right.
You know, even some of the lyrics are quirky like they were in Rocky Horror. But the videos are like, they're pretty corny.
Starlight. Did you happen to watch the video for Ready My Lips?
I can't remember. It was just going and going and going. I was watching all these videos. And then all of a sudden it switched to him on the Monty Python Spam-A-Lot musical.
Oh, he was in that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. So he was singing and, and doing his thing there. And I was just going down tons of little rabbit holes, watching all sorts of stuff that he was on, something called Wise Guy. I don't know if that was the show because they don't really do a good job of saying where it was from. I only see like the headline.
Right.
And we also mentioned that he does a lot of small parts.
Yeah.
So it said Wise Guy 89. Remember there was a Wise Guy TV show? Was that 1989? Because maybe this was a scene from that. And
I don't know. That may have been off my radar.
Yeah.
That don't ring a bell to me.
But it's interesting to see all the different phases of Tim Curry's look.
I forgot one. And speaking of mailbag, I heard from Brother Dan this afternoon.
We don't say his name.
Oh, we don't talk about him.
No.
He's like Bruno.
Yeah. Not until he stops shitting his pants.
Well, he who shall not be named mentioned that Tim Curry was also in Congo, Michael Crichton's Congo. He was beat to death by monkeys.
That's a fun way to go, isn't it?
I'm sorry, they're apes. Monkeys have tails.
One of the things I thought was interesting is I'm watching the Spam-A-Lot not episodes, but, live
Clips.
recordings. Yeah. And he's doing his thing. He's singing. He's doing the lines from, like, there's lines in there from Monty Python. The Holy Grail had a couple lines.
Yeah.
That's really what they're dressed like, the Holy Grail characters. And all of a sudden, he's singing with this woman. The woman's incredible. The woman's amazing. And I'm like, she looks familiar to me. She is actually in Ted Lasso that I'm still watching.
Oh, really?
Hannah Waddingham is her name. So I'm looking at the woman, and she's singing so fucking good. And
She's
I'm like,
a stage singer?
she's
Like
a
an
stage
operatic singer?
Yeah, before
Wow.
she was an actress. Well, I guess she's an actress if you're
Sure.
singing on stage.
Different, but yeah, that's cool.
But it was fun seeing her.
Yeah.
I didn't know she could sing like that. She's incredible. I like that name, too. Like, that's a British name.
Waddingham? Very British.
Hello. I'm Anna Waddingham. When Amy and I went to...
Fancy a crumpet?
Aye. When Amy and I went to London, it took me about 3 days until I was copying the accent.
Oh,
I
yeah.
know, I can't help it. I'm that guy. They're like, hello, would you like a cup of tea? I said, thank you. Like, why did my voice just go up? But it totally was doing that.
Lovely.
Well, thanks for cluing us in, Tim. Scott, got to go down this rabbit hole. It was pretty fascinating, to be honest.
I went down some rabbit holes this week, but Tim Curry was not one of them, especially Tim Curry's music career.
Moving along, sir, we have fuck up a reason. You say you fucked up? You say I fucked up?
I had a small one last week. I mentioned Cinemassacre, and I called him Justin Rolfe, James Rolfe from Cinemassacre and Angry Video Game Nerd. So it was a small one there, but I'll own that. I heard it in playback, and I was like, that's not his name. But at the time, I still couldn't think of his name. I just knew that was not it. So James Rolfe, Cinemassacre, does good stuff. We were talking about how good YouTube productions have become and just how much content is out there and how good content has gotten. And yeah, got to give him props. He was one of the OGs that I started watching. I mean, shit, we started watching Angry Video Game Nerd when we first started hanging out, I think.
And he was doing skits then.
Yeah.
And nobody else was. Like, he was putting in some serious time. He was an early YouTuber.
Very early, yeah. But like I said, he went to film school, so like it was kind of his passion, and this was just an outlet. And I think a lot of early YouTube stuff was either like just stupid viral videos or an artistic outlet for people. And now it's a moneymaker. Now people make money doing it, but back in the day, it wasn't a thing people were doing as a career.
No, and I watch a few videos of YouTubers talking about how they hate YouTube. It's like making money on Google isn't actually easy. There's a lot of rules, a lot of stipulations, a lot of reasons you're not going to get paid. So it sounds like a hard place to make a lot of money, but I'd like to try.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the people that I watch, they talk a lot about, not that they hate doing it, but difficult to keep any kind of privacy. So like if you're putting yourself out there, how much is okay? You know what I mean? Like you don't want to have people coming to your home, and like I've heard people talk about like fans would just show up at their house. They figure out what kind of car they drive. They follow them around. Like a lot of people I watch go to Disney theme parks and shit like that. Like they'll come up to them like, I don't want to say aggressively, but I've heard bad things happen. So like you're putting yourself out there as a content creator. How much is okay?
Yeah, wow, they're becoming celebrities, so they're going to get stalked like them.
In like really weird circles. Yeah.
Nobody's ever stalked me.
No, me neither. Knock on wood.
Who would stalk you and why? Like, that's the one thing about us. We don't have to worry about getting stalked. Yeah, the best episode he had to this day, I still read. Well, there's two. There's the Friday the 13th game. I loved what he did with that when he had the Jason actor. But the one that he did a whole show about NES. Maybe it wasn't just NES, but NES, Nintendo Entertainment System glitches.
Oh yeah, the glitch.
And he had the glitch gremlin or whatever. The guy was right. Oh,
he's an Irish guy.
I had no idea how many old Nintendo and Atari games there were out there that were so poorly made that they would just glitch on you and be unplayable, but somehow they got sold.
Yeah, I remember for PlayStation they had the Rocky Balboa video game, and he would come out had like no jaw, like had like a foot coming out the top of his head. Like it was just the worst glitch ever.
I would love to interview somebody and find out how that got released.
Yeah,
it was like, hey, this thing's got to go out the door on Friday, and somebody's like, it's not done. Too bad, we have to ship it. It has to be like that.
The most memorable episode I think he had for me was when there was a system called the Amiga 32. Like I didn't even talk about when we were doing our history of video game home consoles. The whole system shipped, and the only way you can get it to work, he took a paint can and had to put a paint can on top of the spinning CD lid so that it would like push it down enough to allow it to spin. Like the whole thing, like talk about a glitch. The entire system was a glitch. Like I don't know who put out the Amiga 32, but it was a piece of shit right out the gate.
I remember the Nintendo Entertainment System. Everybody knows you had to blow into the thing once in a while when it would get dusty.
Yeah. I hear that was a myth, though. Like, it really was more of a placebo than it was actually a fix.
Really?
Yeah.
I must have blown into 10,000 cartridges in my life thinking it worked.
No, apparently not.
Well, it got so bad in that Nintendo, I remember having to get something like a wedge.
Yeah.
Like a comic book or something. Just kind of roll it up and shove it in there to make sure it stayed pressed down because it needed to make contact with something inside the Nintendo. But the machine was getting old. It was starting to not really take the cartridges that well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild.
Well, what do you say? You want to move into some topics? Some scattershot topics?
Yeah, we're going to be more all over the place than we typically are in this show, I think. So
nobody's ever told us they minded.
No. It was weird though trying to edit last episode when it was like we were talking about Tim Curry, and next thing I know we're talking about Cheech and Chong as a playable character in a video game, and I was like, man, how the hell am I going to edit this back into Tim Curry?
When we record those, I always wonder, is he going to keep these? These little non sequiturs?
Yeah, but we spiral so much that like then we'll start talking about something else. It's like, well, now I got to keep it because otherwise I'm cutting out 13 minutes of show.
Let's try to stay on topic. It ain't going to happen, but let's try.
One more mailbag. I did hear from your wife again. Not that she has any more topic requests, but a bit of a complaint that our shows have been getting shorter and shorter because she said it used to take her a drive to work and home from work to listen to an episode, and now she can wrap one up on just a drive to work. So there's that. There's not going to be a problem this time. We're going to have content coming out our wazoo.
We might have to make this a 4-parter. All right, so here's how we're playing this. I came with 5 items and a couple extra if we need them.
Yeah.
How many did you come with?
I have a lot of ideas written down. I have at least 5 stories, though.
One of the craziest things is you and I are really in sync with our news stories. We must have the exact same algorithm working for us because you'll send me a text going, did you just see this? And I'm like, I just read it. Or I'll send something to you like, yeah, I saw it this morning. So there's probably going to be some overlap here.
I'm sure. Yeah, we're not going to have 10 stories to talk about. We're going to... But you know what's best? We have 10 things written down here, and we'll probably talk about 15 because there's at least 8 that aren't on these pages here.
Could you imagine everything you got, I got?
I can guarantee you there's not a chance of that, Bill.
All right, so here's my first story. Now, it comes from Giant Freaking Robot, which you and I have said we're not sure this is real. However, I did check the source. It is real. So from Giant, I'm calling this segment, We Cloned a Goat, and Now We Can Make Dinosaurs. A prehistoric tapeworm, estimated to be almost 100 million years old, was found preserved in amber by scientists at the Nanjing,
Sure.
did I say it right?
Sure.
The Nanjing Institute of Geology and Paleontology. This discovery in mid-Cretaceous amber is rare and invokes the concept of Jurassic Park, where DNA from such ancient parasites could potentially reveal genetic material from their hosts, possibly dinosaurs. The preservative nature of amber has captured this tapeworm, which may have come from a marine dinosaur, and offers a glimpse into the fauna of early Cretaceous period. Could you imagine?
I could imagine, because no shit, I read this story. I didn't write it down, but I did read this story. Yeah, pretty wild.
We talk about movies seeing the future and creating like technology that, you know, from sci-fi that actually comes to be.
Yeah.
I never expected this to be something that actually happens.
Yeah, like life imitating art imitating life.
Life finds a way.
I like that chaos theory. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that is... So, you know what's going to happen now? Cretaceous Park.
You got to learn how to say it first. It's hard to spell too. Cretaceous. You said it great.
Actually, I think all the dinosaurs from Jurassic Park lived during the Cretaceous period, but they call it Jurassic Park because it was easier to market.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing I read as I was looking at this, they said in some article I read, headlines, who knows if it's true,
Sure.
but it said only 4 dinosaurs have appeared in every Jurassic Park movie.
I believe that. Raptor's one of them.
T-Rex is probably in every one.
Yeah. Yeah, but in the first one, he was great. And then, like, from the second one, he was the big bad. And then he's just like a little bitch from there on in because they keep making super dinosaurs.
They never killed him?
No.
Did they ever give him a name, the T-Rex?
No.
When you buy the Jurassic Park dinosaur toys, is it just called T-Rex?
It is.
Oh.
Yep.
Do you own the Jurassic Park dinosaur toy to know this?
No, but my neighbors down the street did when I was growing up. The neighbors down the street had it.
Let me tell you about something I was watching related, in a way, to dinosaurs. I don't know what got in my head, but I've never seen the movie Caveman from 1981. Do you know this movie?
Yeah.
What do you know about this movie?
It's been a while. I just know of it, really. I couldn't have an educated discussion with you right now about it, but go ahead. Tell me about it.
Well, thank God for Tubi, because there it was. Caveman, I think it was Tubi I saw it on. It's got Ringo Starr, all right? This is 1981.
Okay, I did know that, yeah.
All the other Beatles are all doing, like, their next thing, and this guy's like, shit.
We got Wings. We got John Lennon's solo career. George Harrison's off making great music. Ringo's a fucking caveman.
Ringo goes, I'm going to be a caveman. And there's no lines in this movie because they're cavemen. But like Ringo's caveman name is a Took, so he'd be like a Took, and then he'd point, and like you have to figure out what all the and there's dozens of characters in this movie, and they're all grunting words that don't exist, and it's slapstick. It's complete slapstick, and some of the jokes are a little dirty. It's one of those PG that maybe should have been PG-13, but that wasn't created yet.
Yeah,
I loved it, man. The special effects were just dog shit, which made it even more charming. It had Shelley Long in it from Cheers.
Yep. I feel like this is a movie that I watched, but it was like while I was watching it, my parents kind of let me know I wasn't supposed to be watching it, kind of thing. Like that's like the memories I have of it. Like not specific memories. I mean, I remember a feeling.
Yeah, well, there's a scene with Barbara Bach. You remember what she looks like?
No.
Beautiful woman from the early 70s and 80s. She's in this movie too. She's the woman that the caveman who is like the alpha male owns. You know, it's that kind of like
clubbing her in the head and dragging her around by the hair and shit.
No, they don't do that. But yeah. So at one point, right, it's so fucking wrong. This just goes to tell you how much we've changed as a culture. So at some point, the character played by Ringo finds some berry that can knock you right out. And he puts the berries in a mango. And he gives the mango to...
slipped her a roofie?
He slipped her a roofie. And he also slipped the alpha male a roofie. So they both go out. And I'm like, well, what's he trying to do? Because you can tell he likes the girl.
Sure.
Dude. You know what he's doing next in the next scene. He's lifting the legs. They turn it into a skip. And I'm like, he's gonna rape her.
Absolutely. Holy shit, Ringo. Man.
It was not a bad movie. Dennis Quaid was in it. He was funny too.
It's a PG movie with a rape.
It's a PG movie.
Fucking 80s, man.
Yeah, please go see this movie. It's pretty good.
I'll have to catch up. On it.
It was like it was probably like Airplane is big.
Yeah.
You know, those movies are big. Let's make one like that because it's really in that vein. And I don't think who made those Airplane movies? Abrams brothers, right? I just looked up Google who made Airplane. The Wright brothers. All right. Let's try that again. Yeah, Jim Abrams and his brother David. And no, it's Jim Abrams and brother David and Jerry Zucker.
The Zuckers, that's right.
Yeah, so it's two groups: the brothers and the Zuckers.
Not the Wright brothers, though. Completely, they did make Airplane. Completely different. Thank you, Google.
Well, that's really it. Go see Caveman, everybody. And if you have seen it, why didn't you tell me about it? Because it's one of the greatest discoveries. It's on the list with Roadhouse this year as being, holy shit, how did I miss that? It's one of the best movies. I would have enjoyed it so much as a kid. It gets 5 stars from me. Everybody else gave it 1. How about you? What are you watching?
The Sun.
Were you staring at the Eclipse?
The Eclipse happened on Monday. Yes, I did watch the Eclipse. I did have, thanks to a coworker, a extra pair of Eclipse watching glasses. So I did walk out front to watch the Eclipse. The whole thing here in Pennsylvania took place from about 2 o'clock till a little after 3 o'clock. And right at the peak of it, when the whole thing was going to be as covered, we were in the 90th percentile zone of coverage, I think they called it. And right when it was going to be like the most covered, giant fucking rain cloud rolled in and you couldn't see a fucking thing. It was so great.
I was sitting right here at my computer doing work and I saw it getting darker and darker. And I was like, well, any minute now, I'm going to kind of mosey on over and squint. You know, I'm not going to look at it. Obviously, everybody says don't, but I'm going to kind of squint and see if it's happening. And I just didn't bother because it didn't get dark enough.
Wait,
and then all of a sudden it got light again.
Yeah. Yeah. What was that last part you said that you weren't going to look at it because why?
I was going to like kind of squint to see if it's happening because I heard there's a chance it may not happen in all places.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like,
I know better than to look into an eclipse.
Well, you're better than most because here's a news story. Eye injuries after the solar eclipse surge following the celestial phenomenon. According to Fox News, doctors and eye specialists have been warning the public for weeks. I mean, how many times have you heard this week, don't stare at the eclipse, don't stare at the eclipse, don't even stare at it through your cell phone, it's just as bad. Well, eye injuries are up, and, you know, they say here that if it did enough damage to your retina, could be permanent.
They told us that with this is the lunar one or this was the solar one, I'm mixing them up.
Solar eclipse,
yeah. They told us that with the lunar one. Like,
yeah.
We should know this. As a people, we should know this.
Guess what else is up? Google searches that say, How do I fix my hurt eyes? And, quote, why do my eyes hurt after the eclipse? So people are fucking stupid. No news there, but I found that interesting. So, yes, I did watch the eclipse. That was just a funny thing. I was watching more than just the sun this week. I'm still watching The Bad Batch.
You still into that?
No.
It's a slog. You're trying to get through it.
Yeah. So I just watched episode 12, and I've been kind of shitting on it, and I realized after yesterday's episode 12, why I fucking hate it. And it's because it's the exact same thing that they were doing for the sequel trilogy, the Abrams trilogy. The one thing I bitched about the most was always like, oh, we have to go here to get this thing that's then going to lead it to this thing. And then there's an artifact there that's going to lead us to this thing. Just MacGuffin after MacGuffin after fucking MacGuffin. Well, guess what? Every episode of this Bad Batch is doing the exact same fucking thing. And I'm just like, who cares? How are you going to wrap this fucking thing up?
Oh my God, who the hell cares?
But you've committed so much time that now you have to stay with it.
This is the final season. I mean, so yeah, I mean, I guess I have to. I put this much time in, like you said. So I'll see it through to the end, but I don't see there being a great payoff. And here's why. All this happened before, like the timeline of this is before the newest movies. And we don't see any of these characters in the newest movies. So this is almost like the whole Rogue One thing where it's like, well, many Bothans died to get us these blueprints, and we don't know any of these people.
I said the other day that this new Jedi thing, this will be the first one I don't watch. I lied because I didn't watch that Bad Batch either. I didn't care.
Yeah.
Oh my God, who gives a damn about a couple clones that were different than the others? I didn't care about any of the clones.
Well, now you just sound like an Imperial.
Yeah. Clones. That's so stupid. Lazy. Clones.
Oh, man.
I'm so worried that everybody thinks I was staring at the sun, squinting. Like, but remember when Trump looked up?
Yeah.
Like, he looked straight up and squinted. Like, I wasn't going to even do that. I was just going to kind of get a sense of, is this thing happening or not? But I can't believe that people were staring at it.
Yeah.
Everybody knows not to stare at Eclipse.
I love that there's people that were like, so Cleveland, Ohio and Niagara Falls got like completely pitch black. They were like in the complete zone of totality. And Erie, Pennsylvania, right there across from Niagara Falls. This was such a tourist thing, and like they commercialized the shit out of this. Like hotel rooms in Erie this past weekend were going for like $800 a night.
Mm.
Like, who the hell is making this their summer? So we were watching at work, and I said to Amy, your wife, I said, yeah, so I walked out. It's a little bit more covered and still not impressive. I don't know like, why would you make this your vacation?
I watched it streaming on something, and they went to Texas first, and we watched it in Texas, and then they went to Indiana. I watched it again. I said, how many times am I going to go watch this freaking thing?
It would be like watching the New Year's ball drop for every time zone.
That's what it was like.
Oh, man. But there's also something else I'm watching. I started watching Shogun. It's an FX series. I've been watching it on Hulu. It's about like feudal Japan. It's really good, and you would absolutely fucking hate it.
Why?
Too many characters.
Oh, it's one of those.
Yeah, a lot of different names. There's a lot going on, a lot of moving parts.
Now, I was going to say, do you think they do that? And I'm thinking about other shows that I know came out, like there was one called Spartacus or something like that.
Yeah.
Like everybody seemed to be inspired by, it looked like everybody was inspired by Game of Thrones all of a sudden.
Kind of.
Now, Game of Thrones came from the books. All those characters were in the books. I was just going to ask you, and as I just argued myself out of this question, but I'm still going to ask the question because maybe there is some kernel of something to it. Do you think they add all of these characters in season 1 so that they can let them play out? Then season 2 will come and they say, okay, people didn't like that one, and that one will kill them.
Maybe.
Kind of hedging their bets.
Maybe. Shogun's based on a book series as well,
Oh,
or at
okay.
least a book, a novel. I don't know if there's more than one, but yeah, it takes place in Japan. You know what? The thing with Game of Thrones, I think they added so many characters because they were in the books, and then come the Red Wedding, they killed off 50% of them anyway, so they got to hit the reset button.
Shame.
That wasn't until season 8.
Shame. Shame.
You know who played the Shame woman? Shame.
Shame.
No.
Shame.
It was none other than Hannah Waddingham.
Was
It
it?
was, yes.
No shit.
Shame.
Yeah, it really was.
Hello, governor.
Shame. Shame.
All right, it's my turn. So I'm going to go with this story. I call it The Lost Disney Cube Has Been Rebuilt. All right, so let me explain this to you. There is a show called Quarter Crew.
Yes.
So you know what Quarter Crew is?
This is where they redo the special effects for movies, or they either show how they did it or explain how they did it, or they kind of take it and redo it themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. They seem to be some kind of company I think they're in LA. I think they're actually hired to do movie stuff, but
Yeah.
they've also, they pull their employees in. They say, we're going to make some YouTube videos. And that really took off. And they do this really cool thing where like they'll bring not actors so much, but stuntmen in.
Yeah.
And they'll say, can we break down these parts and tell me some stories? And there's fascinating stories about how people almost died. They bring in, other special effects people to show like where the mistakes were and why that happened.
Those are the ones I've seen, yeah.
All kinds of stuff they talk about. So I'm watching the other day, and the one guy from the show, he starts talking about this Disney Cube. So evidently back in the Disney days of Mary Poppins, before there was...
Hello.
You're really hanging out in England today. So this is a little complicated to explain without pictures. But when you're making movies, right, you know how you do green screen, you know
Yeah.
how you have to do rotoscoping and all kinds of stuff, masking to make people look like they're there in front of whatever it is that's going to be put onto the green screen later. The green screen is a certain kind of screen. Technology knows how to use that. If you take that same concept and you think about what Disney tried to do during Mary Poppins, when you watch Mary Poppins and they're dancing around and doing all their things.
That was really the first time they had people and animated characters
You got
interact on screen, yeah.
So how'd they do it? When you look at Mary Poppins, she's wearing that bonnet.
Yeah.
And you can see through the bonnet. You can see the background through the bonnet. And that's a sign of they didn't do green screen. How did they do this?
Yeah.
So here's how they did it. They had it literally was a prism. It was a box. Okay. And the technology, I got to read it because I don't fucking understand it. It's called the sodium vapor process. So basically what they do is they take a yellow screen, and it's a very special spectrum of yellow light that gets pushed into the screen through the crystal. The crystal's also able to create a black version of the image as well. So that becomes
Like
the
a
map.
negative almost?
Almost like a negative.
Okay.
Right? So now you've recorded two pieces of footage, the dancing people in color, and it simultaneously creates a clip of the dancing people in black. You merge that together, and somehow with this special process, it makes the best green screen effect ever.
Who in the fuck would have thought of this?
I don't know. Somebody
wild.
brilliant figured it out. But you're probably asking yourself, well, why did they stop using it?
It had to have been costly, I'd imagine.
They made 3 cubes.
Really?
All 3 cubes are lost. They're just lost.
But now they rebuilt them.
So this episode of Corridor Crew, they brought a guy in, he explained what this was, and they found a way to redo it. It's fascinating. They didn't make the same cube because that's expensive as hell.
Yeah.
But it was lost. They're like, yeah, they made 3 of them, and nobody could find them. And I'm like, well, why can't they just make some more? Like, did they lose the special
recipe.
instructions on how to make this magic crystal prism thing?
That blows my mind. I mean, between all the special Disney archives and the Walt Disney Museum in Marceline, Missouri, and even the fucking Smithsonian, like, how does somebody not have one of these things? Or does somebody have one of these, don't even know what the fuck it is?
That's probably what it is. Probably what it is.
Like, nobody would trash that unless somebody came into a new studio and was just like, what the fuck is this? Whip.
Do you imagine the episode of the Antique Roadshow? They come in with this thing.
I had this for years in a drawer. I don't know what it is.
Looks like a piece of fucking lens to me. Throw it out.
Wow, that is wild. I never even heard of such a thing.
Yeah,
when you said Disney Cube, I was thinking, you know how they're doing like The Mandalorian, and you said you don't like these green screen things they're doing now? Like this green screen shows seem too small. So they have a green screen, which is like a cube. If this entire room was green screen and they film in that, and when they project the green screen, like it can just like expansive, endless landscapes because everything's green screen.
Yeah, and you're right. The walls are, it's kind of like that globe or whatever that thing is up in Las Vegas.
Sphere, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot like that. So when you said the Disney Cube, I thought we were talking about present day. I didn't know we were going back to the 1960s.
Yeah. Sodium vapor, the sodium vapor
64.
process.
Who the hell would have thought of that back then, man? Like, we had, like, great scientists, and nowadays we don't even, like, fucking trust scientists and what they tell us.
Yeah. I like that. This worked so well, and then they lose the cubes, and nobody, wants to bother coming up with that again. They just do shitty, lazy green screen. They're like, this is good enough.
Yeah, I mean, a few clicks, a lot quicker, I guess.
But, like, this thing, they showed examples, like, her hair swaying. Like, you don't have to trace out every hair
Right.
piece of hair now. Yeah. It's like, go back to that. It looked amazing.
It was probably a lot simpler, too. You know what I mean? You're just shooting, and you have somebody else animating. It would take a lot less production houses.
Yeah, I think so. Put that in the file of why the fuck is that gone? We need it again.
You said it. Speaking of what the fuck and Disney, Nelson Peltz. We've been talking about him a lot lately.
Yeah.
I think I sent you this article. He barely got any fucking votes. So we talked last week how we were making fun of that shitty PowerPoint.
Yeah.
The 4-page PowerPoint where one of them just said, "Oh, Nelson."
Oh, Nelson.
And it was the worst drawn, worst designed PowerPoint I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think Disney put their intern on it.
Well, it was impactful because when all the shareholders voted, Bob Iger got 93% of the shareholder vote to stay. Nelson Peltz got 13%.
Really? That's it?
That's it.
Sounded like there was a lot of people on Nelson's side.
You were talking about those investment firms and analysts and people like saying, hey, maybe this guy's the way to go.
Yeah.
They did not heed that guy's
Didn't
words.
sway him.
No.
Okay.
No. So, yeah, I thought that was funny. I read this article here. It just said that, so not only did Nelson not fare too well, the other guy he was trying to bring in also didn't fare too well.
Perlmutter.
Perlmutter, that's right.
Yeah, he was already with, he was the head of Marvel,
Yeah.
the MCU.
Yeah. So this article comes from Variety. According to the vote totals disclosed in an SEC filing Tuesday, so because this is a publicly held company, the SEC has to get involved to make sure that everything's fair and above board. 9 of the 12 Disney-backed director candidates received more than 90% of the shares in their favor. Bob Iger got 94% of the shareholders' votes. However, the 3 candidates nominated by another investment firm, Blackwell's Capital, which is, I believe, who you talked about, received only 2% of the votes cast in their favor. Oh, I take it back. Nelson Peltz got 31% of the votes, and there was a James Rasulo. That gentleman got 12% of the vote. So, yeah, it didn't fare well. Like, we were worried that, like, this whole analyst recommendation for Peltz would have pushed things. Yeah, he did not make...
Didn't work.
No.
I really thought it would. I actually thought there was a chance because, look, you play the stocks. You may not give a fuck what Disney's actually putting out. You only care about looking at that little, the ticker telling you that shit's going up. So when they see shit's not up, I thought they'd just be like, yeah, well, we want new blood in there. And they'd all back Peltz. But Peltz was kind of an annoying guy, apparently.
He was. I mean, even those 4 quotes, and I know those quotes were probably taken out of context, but the 4 quotes they put on that PowerPoint was just like, this guy's a dickhead.
Yeah, they were kind of shitty. And then I was thinking about this a bit. All of a sudden they announce Fantastic Four. They say, hey, there is a female playing Silver Surfer, which I don't care. If you want to do that, fine, as long as you don't make it a political statement. So I had no problem with it because it doesn't look like any kind of political statement.
Yeah.
But I wonder if he heard that and went, oh, they're still woke. The MCU. Wah!
Yeah. I mean, I heard no fanfare or any kind of, nobody was making any noise about that casting or that announcement.
I don't know. Does anyone care? Maybe nobody cares anymore.
And I was just going to say, so maybe people are cool with it, or maybe just nobody cares about the Fantastic Four. Yeah, with this being, the third rebooting of this?
Yeah.
None of them were ever really good. I want this one to be good because of Pedro Pascal, but at the same time, I don't much give a shit. And now I see, we talk about Screen Crush and like sites like that. They're putting out all kinds of speculative videos that they're like, oh, Mr. Fantastic might be the new bad guy. And they're like, the new bad guy? Like the new Kang, pointing to Pedro Pascal. And I'm like, if you're going to have a bad guy, what better bad guy to have than somebody that's like Pedro Pascal? I mean, he could carry the villain role pretty far.
Yeah, I wasn't a big reader of Fantastic Four. It was a little too corny for me. And
Yeah.
I've already told you so many times. The cosmic stuff just, it's weird. I don't get that into it. I did read the Marvel Zombies and
Yeah.
Reed Richards. It's the rebooted version. What do they call that? The Ultimates. It was the Ultimate Reed Richards. Like, he fucked up. He's not like the greatest, mind. He's an incredibly intelligent guy who makes mistakes. So he's a different version. And one of the things that I heard, if you look at the picture they released of the Human Torch flying around, it was just a drawing.
Yeah.
But the background, it looked very futuristic, like the Jetsons.
Right, like a 60s version of what the future in the year 2000.
So they think that's going to be where this thing is set, in like a 60s alternate universe where that's the future coming to life.
So we're still fucking around with this whole multiverse.
Yeah, pretty much.
How long is this going to haunt us? Forever?
Oh, God, man, I'm tired of it.
I'm done with it. I'm done with it. It's their way to be like, oh, nothing happens. It's another dimension.
I mean, they got to explain why they use that in the illustration, to show people, hey,
Yeah.
it's coming. So if they're really going to place this movie back in the 60s, how are they going to put other characters into it? When they finally get to like modern day, the thing will be 118. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it won't work. So I don't know. Maybe they won't be doing it in the 60s or whatever. I read it was, what are some of those things? Because they all say the same things, right? You watch Screen Crush and then you go to New Rock Stars and they must copy everything from Screen Crush.
Yeah.
And everybody just says the same thing. So I don't know.
Who's getting clicks?
Yeah.
Hey, is OJ around?
OJ, what do you think?
OJ, what do you think about the MCU? Huh?
I plead the fifth.
Keeping it close to the MCU, I, on your recommendation, caught up on X-Men 97.
Oh my God. Were you stoned?
I was not stoned.
I'm telling you, it's better when you're stoned. I know you don't smoke.
Would have to be. It would have to be.
Really? You
I
don't
mean,
like it?
I watched it. It's like, okay. Yeah, okay, we're doing this now. All right.
My brother loved it. He was like, it's just like the comics. I said,
It was.
I kind of remember the old cartoon having some of the soap opera stuff, but it's over the top of the soap opera stuff.
I mean, to his point, the thing that was most like the comics to me would have been when they had brought Genosha into the UN.
Yeah.
That was like a huge plot point, and then that was when Magneto was used as the ambassador of Genosha to the UN.
Did you see episode 5? You caught up? It was amazing. I was like, this is an intense cartoon.
Yeah, I guess it was okay. It was fine. It was fine.
Some moments of it that I was like, holy shit, this is the most incredible thing I've ever seen. But I'm still like,
Wait, there were some moments of it where you were high and you were like, oh my God,
That helped.
It helped a lot.
but even high, I was able to say, this is some of the worst script
Yes.
writing I've ever seen in my life. But the story was there. And the animation is good, but I need you to answer a question for me. Are they intentionally making it look like 97?
I think so.
Why couldn't they have at least put more, FPS into it, more frames per second, right? It looks so choppy.
Well, the reason I bring up X-Men 97 and your recommendation, the reason you told me to watch it was for episode 4. And I don't mind, there will be spoilers in here for episode 4. Episode 4 builds towards nothing. In fact, it's a 2-part episode where there's like a beginning half that means nothing and is completely self-contained. And there's like a second half where it actually leads to the story of Scott Summers and Jean Grey's son and all that. But the first half of it is Jubilee on her 18th birthday wants to go to the arcade, and Big Bag Magneto, who's in charge of the X-Men now, says no, she can't. And then they get trapped in basically the X-Men arcade game.
Yeah. Yeah. And all the sound effects.
And all the sound effects were there. It was pixelated art. It was actually the exact art of Magneto from that game. And I was just waiting for "Welcome to Die,"
Yeah, I know.
but it never came.
I thought that was fun.
It was
kinda
all right.
cool.
That was funny. Yeah, I like that they brought in Mojo, the bad guy Mojo, who was bigger in the comics, I remember, but really not done before in the cartoon. I'm going to go through a list here. We'll discuss this. This is from denofgeek.com. They are ranking the best villains from the X-Men animated series.
I don't remember anybody but Magneto.
Well, we'll go through them.
All right.
Number 10, Omega Red.
Okay. I remember he was like a samurai.
No, he was Russian. He was the Russian equivalent of Weapon X or Wolverine.
Oh, all right.
That's him. He kind of looked like he had the hair up like a samurai, but he was not a samurai.
Did he have long tentacles?
Tendrils would go out from his hand. Yeah, adamantium tendrils would go out. Number 9, Senator Robert Kelly. Whenever they get into the politics of it and all that, I just don't care. That guy shouldn't have made the list.
I'm thinking about that adamantium. It's kind of like the Disney cube. Did they lose the recipe? Because they could put adamantium on everybody. They make the most incredible heroes.
Yeah.
You only hear it like once in a while. It's on this guy, it's in Wolverine, but it's nowhere else.
There's some turds on this list. Number 6, Sabretooth.
Okay.
He was good. Number 5, Mystique.
Oh, see, I forget she's a bad guy because they turned her into a good guy.
Yeah. Number 4, Mr. Sinister, which is who they're really pushing now in this series. Number 3, the Sentinels, which I thought Sentinels were kind of like the Stormtroopers of the X-Men world. Like, unless it's like a super Sentinel, like, they knocked their head off left and right. Like, it was just, they were powerful because of numbers, but not because of, individual ability. No, they were just throwaway things to kill.
And these were giant machines, and I loved, like, there was always so many of them.
Yeah.
Like, every one of those must be $1 billion. They fly them in to fight the X-Men, and they chop them up.
Number 2, Apocalypse, which Apocalypse was fine, and then they destroyed it when they brought him into the X-Men movie canon. And number 1, of course, Magneto, which hard to argue with that. I don't know. I think maybe Sabretooth probably should have been up higher. I mean, hard to beat Magneto, but now, like you said, they did with Mystique in the movies. Now they're doing that to Magneto in the animated series, making him a good guy.
Well, I think they did that in the comics, too. I think
they did.
A comic storyline.
They did. I don't know how I feel about it. I've said this before, a comic only as good as the bad guy.
Yeah. All right, I think I'm ready
for
my next one here. All right, so my next one is Paramount investigates Sly. Did you hear about the investigation on Sylvester Stallone?
No.
This made me laugh. All
like
right,
a present day investigation.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, this investigation just started.
Okay.
So he's doing that Tulsa King show.
I barely know what that is.
Yeah, me too. Barely know. It's some show on some channel, and it's got
probably Paramount.
Well, that makes sense.
I mean, I'm just taking a stab in the dark here.
So I'll read the article here. It's from CNN.com. Paramount is looking into claims that Sylvester Stallone allegedly used disparaging language about background actors on the set of Tulsa King, which streams on Paramount Plus, as Scott told you. The studio is investigating claims that first surfaced on social media in which Stallone was accused of referring to some performers working as extras on the set of the TV series as ugly, a tub of lard, and a fat guy with a cane, according to 2 sources close to the show.
Oh.
Bring in young, pretty girls to be around me, Stallone was accused of being overheard saying to the director of Tulsa King in another social media post about the set. Both production sources told CNN that no formal complaints have been lodged against Stallone or the director, so I guess it's all just hearsay right now. Human resources personnel became aware of the accusations from social media posts the individual said. So, do I believe Stallone said that stuff?
Absolutely, I do.
Absolutely. He's from Philadelphia. He's an old guy. This is how they talk in Philadelphia. There's no question in my mind that he does not know that we're in a state now where no insults are allowed to be hurled.
Sure. I mean, I'm looking at him. He didn't age that well.
He looks rough.
I mean, he looks like he'd be a fat guy with a cane.
Look, I mean, tell me this isn't plastic surgery.
Oh.
Aging badly, right?
Yeah, it's like falling off his face.
When did he get this? Because he didn't look this way in any point in his career.
I mean, these Apollo movies, he kind of, or Creed, he looked at these in these Creed movies a little bit. Yeah.
I didn't see those.
I saw bits and pieces.
I got to. I want to. They're on my list. I love Rocky. I'm just behind. Are they good?
It's what you expect it to be. Yeah, it's what you expect it to be.
I just don't know what story is left.
Well, now we're following Apollo Creed's kid being trained by Rocky.
So are we going to follow Creed's kid in the next series, and it's going to be he's going to be trained by this guy?
Maybe. We'll bring back Tommy Gunn.
Oh, I remember Tommy Gunn. That was part 4 or 5.
Part 5, yeah.
And it was like, what are they going to do in this one? Rocky had the street fight with him.
Yeah.
You remember? It was like, that wasn't so great.
He knocked him out up against the front of a Mack truck or something.
Like, we're running out of steam here already. That was part 5, and we're still doing Rockies. To this day, I still love Rocky 3.
I am ranked number 1.
Oh, with Clubber Lang?
Yeah, I love it.
That was good.
I love Rocky 4.
I mean, I was raised on Rocky 4.
I was, yeah, I was raised on 3, and in 4, I loved just as much. I was in a huge Rocky kick for a good portion of my childhood.
Like the training montage when he's out there in the snow in Russia, and he's like outrunning the Soviets with like their big dumb hats, and he's like chasing him in like a Mercedes.
Yeah.
He like outruns the Mercedes. He runs to the top of the mountain. It was like, fuck yeah!
I remember the robot. Remember the robot?
Happy birthday, Polly.
Happy birthday, Polly.
That's different.
Where's that robot now?
I don't know.
I need that robot.
Happy birthday, Polly.
All right, so this next one I call Dead Man Winning. All right? It's from the RogerEbert.com site. Apparently, Roger Ebert is still running a website.
Really?
He's not around anymore. But Dead Man Winning, I'm talking about George Carlin.
Oh, not about Ebert.
No, it just happens to be on Roger Ebert's page.
Okay.
So, Dead Man Winning, the topic is the estate of George Carlin destroys AI George Carlin in victory for copyright protection, and in parentheses, and basic decency. I'm not sure what that's about, but
I think they're saying that this AI George Carlin was in such bad taste, and like it was wrong to even think you could capitalize or do something without the consent of someone's estate, that basic decency was upheld by the estate winning this copyright law. That's where I get from this.
yeah, I guess you're right, but it's parody.
But like, who didn't see this coming?
Right. Well, I thought it was so funny that somebody actually was able to like move forward with this, and it ended like this is a court case that didn't go for 5 years.
And you know that the person that made it knew it was going to go this way too, because there was that whole 3 minutes of disclaimer was like, I'm not really George Carlin. I am AI, and I am recreating using AI. Like, it was such a disclaimer. It went on and
Didn't
on
work.
and on. It didn't fucking matter.
What's confusing about this, and I read a few articles, the thing we watched was called Dudesy. So now as I'm reading this, the people that got in trouble, one of them is that guy Will Sasso.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in trouble. He's the one who got in trouble.
Really?
So I think when I was showing you this thing from Dudesy, I was really showing you something that was from Will Sasso's podcast. So he's the one that's, kind of
And he was
hanging out
big
to
for
dry
Mad TV. Like, he was Will TV's version of Chris Farley.
Yeah. He's in that Loudermilk show I love.
Oh, I haven't watched that yet.
He played Curly in the Three
He
Stooges
did play
remake.
Curly. Yes, he did.
So according to a Reuters story, the lawsuit was among the first in the entertainment world related to deepfakes, that is, convincing digital imitations of real people made possible by fast evolving AI technology. Carlin's daughter, Kelly, said in a statement that she was pleased that the case was resolved so quickly and amicably. So I think this was settled.
Yeah. That's not surprising at all. I mean, I'm glad it turned out this way. I think you said on the first show we talked about it, and maybe even played a clip of this. Like, people hearing this now, like young people hearing this now, not knowing who George Carlin is, thinking that was George Carlin, would just degrade the legacy of George Carlin.
I don't know if anybody heard that. My wife was blending something in the she's got this blender. It's like 5 rooms away, and it's as loud as a fucking jet. So that's over with, and then I'll hit you with my last story here. Oh no, I got another surprise one. I want to show you one last thing before.
It's not going to be a game, is it?
It's not a game,
Oh,
but
okay.
it's a quick. I'm going to go right to it. So the AI stuff, we've been talking about it, all new kinds of technology every day, just like this article we just read. There's a new technology out called La La Lie. Okay, LALAL.ai. La La Lie.
Okay.
La 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 Lie. All right. And what this thing does.
Why wouldn't they come up with a... You did say they're out of all the good names, so we get nothing but shit names now.
Yeah. La 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 La. La La Lie. So all you got to do with this AI is take a song and upload it. And what it will do with machine learning, and there's some neural network that it's in generation 4 of, it'll listen to the song and you have choices. You can take out the vocals. You can take out the drums. You can isolate the drums.
So this is like you're mixing, but like all done AI.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I wanted to test it. All right.
What do we got?
You tell me what song this is just by listening to the vocals.
This is Panama for sure.
You do it for the first squeal.
So I actually heard sound booth recordings of David Lee Roth in the studio, just isolated vocal tracks. And actually what you're playing right here is a pale comparison to those recordings I heard. So just that first jump off squeal, yeah, Panama all the way.
And if you listen really closely, you can tell it's a little digital. Like here, you can hear. I'll play the other side of it.
Yeah.
Right. So right there is where you hear words, but now you don't hear any words. It's a perfect stripped away version. Where, stripping the lyrics. If you want to be, my friend Jen and Brian, they love doing karaoke. Like, this is great. Throw any song in there, turn it into karaoke.
Yeah.
If you want to have some fun and remix a song, you want to go see what it would be like to remix a Guns N' Roses song. Like, isolate the tracks with this la 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 la. If I wanted to figure out the Eddie Van Halen guitar solo note by note, but I could never really hear it because Dave was over it. This is like, there's so much. There's a lot of cool things that can come from this.
Yeah. When you listen to the vocals, there's a little bit, and it's probably what happened when we got the wrong audio clip for our show 2 back, where like your sound was off because we were treading on each other and it got real digital. Probably what's happening here when you play these two, lines together, meshes perfectly, but the vocals a little less than like those isolated sound booth recordings that I heard online before, and I stand by it. David Lee Roth, one hell of a performer, man.
Absolutely.
One of the best.
Absolutely. I was trying to find his house in LA. I was like, I'm not going to be a stalker, but I know he lives in a massive. I forget what his father did. His father was loaded. So every time.
You would have to be.
Yeah.
You can't be that eccentric if you don't have like some kind of financial backing to be that eccentric. Otherwise, you're just a fucking loon.
Yeah. He's like, Dave never had the work. He never had to do any of this. And when you see this crazy house in some of his videos when he went solo, that's his actual house.
Really?
Yeah. Like, so that's the house I wanted to see.
The Desert Rose house?
Supposedly it's a crazy mansion. And I didn't go to it. I didn't want to be a stalker.
Nice.
But one of the things I really think is interesting about this, and then I'll move on to our last topic. So I told you last week I've been, really into mixing music the last couple of years. And when you mix music, it's a lot like cooking. All right. Not that I know how to cook. But I understand that you get a lot of different ingredients and you throw in some oregano, you throw in some, pepper. And if you do the balance right, you get something amazing. Mixing's the same. Yeah. You have to bring up the drum tracks, add a little reverb, not too much. You got to put the compression in just right because you're trying to find the glue that pulls the whole song into sounding like something on the radio. So when I pulled the vocals off of this track, I heard the reverb. The AI was smart enough to pick up the reverb, which is usually blending into the entire mix.
Right.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So this will only get better.
I mean, it's also kind of amazing how, looking at your screen here, I know this is an audio show, so it doesn't mean much, but even when we edit our show, our audio is visually represented on a screen. So that much more respect for people back in the day, like before there were computers, before everything was like digitized and made visual, to edit something just by sound had to have been a whole different world.
There is an interview I read with Steve Vai, who was like 17 when he started working with Frank Zappa. And Frank Zappa came up with a whole different style of taking like his live recordings, and he'd say, okay, this was played at BPM, whatever, 120, and he'd archive it. And then he'd go home and he'd take the tape and he'd go, okay, this is at 120 in the key of F Mixolydian. I got another song that's that. And he would just put tracks together and he would just pull things out of live performances and blend them. And Steve Vai said he would watch him do this. And he's like, he would literally take the tape
and just tape it together
and take a razor, just like they did with film editing.
Yeah.
He was doing this with music editing. And Steve Vai's like, how did you know where to do that? He goes, right here. I stop it right on the kick drum. That's the one. He goes, I just slice it right there. And I've never known that was done that way. And I've listened to Frank Zappa my whole life.
Yeah.
It's perfect. I've never heard a bad edit. All right, let me give you my last story here. I call this one Morton Downey to return.
Which, of course, you probably mean Robert Downey?
Of course I mean Robert Downey. That old gag. So from darkhorizons.com, I don't know, I never heard of it, hoping it's true. It says here, he won an Oscar for his work in Oppenheimer, but Robert Downey Jr. isn't forgetting what helped revive his stardom, the role of Tony Stark. Speaking with Esquire recently, the actor was asked if he would ever return to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Downey Jr. says he's open to it. and has high praise for Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige. Maybe he got the PowerPoint.
He got the PowerPoint.
He says, happily, as in I'll go back happily. It's too integral a part of my DNA. That role chose me. And look, I always say, never, ever bet against Kevin Feige. It's a losing bet. He's the house. He will always win. So, this got me thinking, because we were always speculating, was this guy going to come back for the multiverse thing? And he never did come back.
We got Tom Cruise.
This is the kind of answer you give when somebody asks you this, when you've already filmed your scenes for Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah, you're right. Like, oh, I'd love to. I mean, anything's possible.
That's what I was wondering. Will we be seeing him in that? Supposedly, there's a ton of cameos in that movie.
I know. They probably have as many non sequiturs in that movie as we have in one of our episodes.
Deadpool's our mentor.
Maybe. When you read the article headline, I thought we were going to be having Robert come back to reprise his role as the best friend from Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield.
You know, I heard a story. It was either that movie or Weird Science, because he was in that too.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it might have been Weird Science. He'd like to poop in people's trailers. He'd just go in and leave poops.
Like randomly or in the toilet?
Yeah, randomly.
Oh, man, like in the dresser drawer? Like, oh, there's shit in here now.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a dirty prank.
Yeah. Yeah, he talks about it.
I mean, it's not exactly as elegant as George Clooney's pranks on set. I mean, he has good pranks on set, some of the things that Clooney pulls off, but just randomly shitting someplace, it seems pretty juvenile.
That reminds me of the scene from The Usual Suspects when they're all standing in line.
Benicio del Toro keeps dropping bombs.
He starts farting, and everybody starts laughing, and they use that scene of everybody laughing from his farts in the movie.
Yeah, because he did it like 8 takes in a row, and they kept cutting because he was farting, and then they would cut, reset, and he'd fucking do it again.
Boys will be boys.
It is true. Farts are funny.
I'm almost 50, and they just get funnier. Well, that's really it. That's everything I got. I think the show is over.
All right.
How'd you like doing this in person?
Yeah, no, good. I mean, some kinks to work out maybe. But no, I mean, it's good. It's different. Change is always good.
I like it as long as it sounds good. My biggest fear right now is we go take this chip out of the recording system and oops.
Only one of the mics are recording.
Only one, yeah. So, if you guys are hearing this, we didn't screw up.
And speaking of those that are hearing this, thank you all for listening. Go out there, tell a friend, and we'll keep growing this thing, keep trying different things. Until next week, we'll see you then.